Hello again, everybody. Welcome to a RedRaiders.com postgame show brought to you by University Medical Center. We're in Morgantown, West Virginia after a Texas Tech 46-35 loss Saturday to the West Virginia Mountaineers in what was really a strange game. I'm Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal alongside AJ Media Sports Editor Nicholas Talbot. We are again here at Milan Puskar Stadium, where it looked like, Nick, for a long time today, it looked like the Red Raiders not only were going to come into West Virginia and win. It looked like they were going to win handily, and then the Mountaineers had other ideas.
Yeah, and like you said, it's kind of a mountain meltdown here because Texas Tech was up 35-17. Everything was looking good. They were running the ball well. Justin Stockton was running the ball well. Trey King was running the ball well. Nick Shinmek looked sharp. TJ Vasher had a breakout game. The rush defense, yes, the rush defense looked really good, and it continued to be excellent. But at the end of the day, Don, they lost by 11 points, and it's almost inexplicably how they lost.
Well, the thing was, the defense. Will Greer's been a real solid quarterback for West Virginia this season, all season. They've had a quality passing game. They've had the Big 12's leading rusher in Justin Crawford, and it took a while, but West Virginia finally got that passing game cranked up. And as I wrote about, Texas Tech. Going into this week, Texas Tech was number 123 in the nation in pass defense, and it's like West Virginia finally really took advantage of that. The last 20 minutes of the game, Will Greer throws 4 touchdown passes, and David Sills, who's been just a handful that he's played so far this year, was a handful for the Red Raiders as well, and all of a sudden the pass D couldn't stop anybody.
Yeah, they couldn't stop anyone. David Seals got 2 touchdowns.
Three.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns of the day, 2 touchdowns in that last 21 minutes. Karan White got 2 touchdowns, including a 32 and a 17-yarder. The 17-yarder gave him the lead 30, I believe 39-32 when they were coming back, or 39-35, excuse me. And Don, but the one thing that a lot of Red Raider fans are going to point out today is pass interference call, pass interference call, pass interference call, and another pass interference. I mean, it was just continual pass interference calls. I agreed with some of the calls, and some of the calls were kind of in between there. But that's what happens when they're going to chunk the ball downfield. They have to be Texas Tech has to be in position to do a better job.
And for the most part this year, and I said the Red Raiders are number 123 in the nation in pass defense, there have been a lot of instances in which they've had really good coverage and good receivers just made plays, just went up and got the football. And we saw that, I think we saw that again today, and I'm kind of a defender of cornerbacks. I think it's really hard to play. I'm not to make excuses here when you give up a lot of yards through the air and 4 touchdown passes late, but I think it's really hard to play cornerback in today's college football. I thought for example, the interference call on DeMarcus Fields, he had very good position. He made a play on the ball. He still gets the flag, and I know the commentators will scream, "You got to turn your head around." Well, if you turn your head around, then you don't know where your man is. Tech gave up a touchdown where Desmond Smith turned his head around to track the ball, and the receivers behind him for an easy catch.
And that's why everything's becoming a passing league these days, where this NFL or college football. That's why it's pass, because it has become so hard to defend. And Texas Tech really struggled in both ends of that. They struggled not to get the penalties. They had, I believe, 16 for 159 yards. That's just, this is coming off a week where they only had 2 penalties for 10 yards. So this was a huge step back as far as penalties for the Red Raiders.
And again, I'm not making excuses here, but I think if you're a team that plays with attitude and toughness, you're going to get some penalties, and that so much doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some other people. It didn't bother Michael Leach. Michael Leach used to always say when his teams got penalized a lot, and he would say, well, a lot of teams that are very disciplined also, get their butts kicked. And they don't commit many penalties, but they're not very tough either. His philosophy was always, as long as my penalty total is about the same as your penalty total, then they kind of offset, and he was okay with that.
Today, not the case. They had about 60 or 70 more yards, and most of those were 15-yarders. I think that's where it really hurt them, Don, is they had 2 on the out-of-bounds when their West Virginia was coming this way. A couple late hits that allowed West Virginia to go down the field, and then they had a couple 3 pass interference calls in one drive to let West Virginia go down the field. It was the fact that they were one after the other, I think, what hurt Texas Tech today. They weren't kind of mixed and matched here, they just kind of hurt them because they were back to back to back and allowed West Virginia to get those 2 touchdowns. One that made it 35-24 that, really allowed them to start coming back.
So okay, I made my excuses for the Red Raiders. Here's my beef with the Red Raiders. You're ahead 35-17. West Virginia starts to rally. You have an offense with a fifth-year senior quarterback, a run game that's been effective, as you said, and you have a veteran cast of receivers. You cannot go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, interception. And that's how Texas Tech ended the game. 3 consecutive 3 and outs and an interception. It's like when West Virginia mounted the rally, when the fans here at Milan Puskar Stadium got into it and started producing a lot of noise. Tech offense just kind of huddled up into a little ball.
Yeah, they didn't do a very good job at all. And Nick Shimonek started off very high. He had 4 touchdown passes in the first half, 0 in the second half. Texas Tech scored its lone touchdown in the second half on a 30-yard run by Trey King. So they really, the accuracy went down. The offense really just choked. There's no other way to put it. Almost as bad as the kicking game, but not as bad as the kicking game.
Yeah, and that's a harsh word to use, but I asked the folks involved after the game. I said, "Did y'all get tight on offense?" Cliff Kingsbury wouldn't say that. He said, "I didn't feel that we were tight. I just didn't think I thought we didn't execute." But you know what? To me, when you're, like I say, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, you're getting no yardage, and putting your defense back out there doing
in bad
nothing
field position too. Usually
in bad field position, doing nothing to stem the tide. It's it's not a good look for your offense. And again, particularly when it's a cast of guys that are veterans that you depend on. It's one thing if you have a freshman quarterback in that situation with freshman and sophomore receivers, but that's not the case for Tech.
No, it's not the case at all, because they have experience all the way across the board. Dylan Cantrell, Nick Shimonek, they're all experienced guys. And you thought you saw this against Arizona State, and you thought you saw this against Houston, where they wouldn't do this. They wouldn't flame out like this because they have that experience. Today, it just wasn't the case. Maybe it's because they were on the road in a hard place to play like Morgantown. It's a lot tougher place to play than Houston was. But, you can't really make excuses for an 18-point blown lead.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Big picture, you gave a game back. And we talked about it before the season and in September. I said I didn't think the team was good enough to go 3-0 in non-conference play, and they did. They won all 3 of those non-conference games. But now you basically come up here today and lose a game that you should win, that you obviously put yourself in position to win. And so it's like you gave back some of that. You gave back something that you had nearly earned.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about some of the negatives on, but I think the biggest negative today, because more than anything else, more than the penalties, more than those 3 and outs, is the kicking game. 3 missed field goals. A lot of them chip shots. One at the end of the half. It just seemed to, every time Texas Tech was going to go put them away, they missed a field goal.
And not long field. Not major long distance. We're not talking about 50 yards.
24, 36, or maybe 37, and then a 43-yarder.
43, yeah.
Yeah, all things a college kicker should make, especially that 24-yard at the end of the half. Cliff Kingsbury just wanted the points on the board to make it, go up by 2 scores, get up 31-17. 4th and 1 from the goal line, 9 seconds left. He elects to kick it. You'd probably like to have that decision back because clanked it. Right off the upright.
And he said, we thought we need a little momentum there, get it out to a 2-touchdown lead. If I had known he was going to miss it, I would have gone for it.
Yeah.
But this has been just a repeated problem. Now, obviously, it's not the first time we've talked about it, and I don't remember it all off the top of my head. I did the tally during the game, and I think you have it in your story or stories. But, the last 4 weeks, it's what, 6 missed field goals.
6 missed field goals, a missed extra point, 2 punts. One was blocked, one was muffed, and then of course
and 3 kickoffs
out of bounds.
And the good news is, the same guys are going to have to get better.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody riding to the rescue. I asked Cliff Kingsbury after the game. I said, are there any walk-ons in practice who we haven't seen yet that you can trot out there next week? And he said, no, it's these guys. You got Michael Barden. You have Matthew Cluck, who I saw late in the game over there, warming up, kicking into the net. And I guess Michael Uden as well, who, of course, missed a couple of short field goals down at Houston. He says it's on those guys. They just got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's almost to the point where you say, hey, let's just hold a tryout on campus and let's see if we can get someone through the uprights. I think I've seen that happen before.
2008, Texas Tech was having trouble with the kicking game, and there was a competition for kick for rent produced by Linwood Townhomes in Lubbock, and a young man named Matt Williams, of course, came out of the bleachers and kicked a 30-yard field goal. And Mike Leach, I guess alertly, was watching. I mean, this was not staged.
Yeah.
They happened to be watching and said, that guy's got some form. That guy's got a pretty good leg. Somebody go stop him and tell him to show up on Monday. And next thing you know, about a month later, Matt Williams was kicking for the Red Raiders in Game 8 of the season in that 2008 season, and wound up being a regular kicker for the Red Raiders. And boy, it sounds like a joke, but the Red Raiders could sure use some more of that now.
They certainly could. I mean, we're laughing about it, but at this point, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Let's see. What else should we get to? Just some other little items while we're maybe brainstorming the game here. T.J. Vasher, of course, with a great game.
Yeah,
two catches.
Both
for touchdowns.
Yeah, huge, because one for 60, one for 53 yards. And when you thought he got that 53-yarder, you thought that's when this game was out of reach, because it was just impressive. It was a heck of a catch, probably SportsCenter top 10 nominee catch. And then, of course, it went
another example where a DB has incredible, fantastic position, doing everything he can do, and DJ Vasher with just the long arms reaches around him and grabs it. So it's a breakout game for him. We've kind of been expecting that from TJ Vasher, and today was the day. You mentioned the
defensive line played well. I think we should probably mention that. They had 4 sacks today.
4 sacks. That was a season high. You had 1 apiece from Colin Hill, Eli Howard. I shouldn't try to do things off the top of my head. Broderick Washington and
Colin Hill.
Colin Hill?
Yep,
okay.
Colin Hill,
yeah.
I think, was credited with it anyway.
Right, yeah. There are 4 sacks, season high. And I think maybe the other really big stat today was, you had mentioned it earlier, the rush defense. West Virginia's Justin Crawford came into this week as the Big 12's leading rusher, and today he has 44 yards against Tech. He had 19 on 1 carry. And other than that, they just completely shut him down.
Yeah, they completely shut him down. I think he had 14 carries for those yards.
14 for 47.
14 for 47. West Virginia had 29 carries for 44 yards overall. The rush defense looks good. So those positives to take out of this game: the breakout of Vasher, the rush defense, the defensive line, all looked good. It's just when push came to shove, they just couldn't finish this one off.
Yeah, and so now they have to. I guess we'll see the mental toughness that this team has, because next Saturday Red Raiders are back at it again. Once again, it's an 11 a.m. start time. Once again today, the Red Raiders played very well right off coming out of the gate at 11 a.m., so it looks like they kind of have that formula. They have that routine down. But it's Iowa State coming to town to Jones Stadium, and Nick, I thought this last year about Iowa State. Matt Campbell, like Cliff Kingsbury, a very young coach, I thought they were – sleeping giant is not the right term, but I thought they were a much better team than the record indicated last year, because you look down the schedule and they played close game after close game after close game after close games. There were I think 4 Big 12 teams last year that they stayed within a touchdown or 10 points, and had a lot of frustrating afternoons where they were.
Yeah.
Where they were right there and couldn't quite finish the job.
Except against Texas Tech.
And then they did finish the job against Texas. They started it, finished it, and did everything in between against Texas Tech. And then they did the same thing against Oklahoma. And so this is it's no gimme anymore when you play Iowa State.
The game's not going to be as easy as the Kansas game was 2 weeks ago. It's just not, because Iowa State's so much better than they have been in the past. They have a really good running back I like. He runs hard. Their quarterback play, they had a couple quarterbacks here. I'm not sure their
So
status,
then your third teamer just goes.
Yeah, the third teamer just
wins again, beats OU and Norman.
Yes. Yeah, so, And Joel Lanning played both ways. Why not? A little bit of linebacker, a little bit of quarterback. Why not?
He's getting a lot of traction, I think, for all Big 12 linebacker, or maybe even better than that. So I guess that'll about put a wrap on it from us tonight. Again, post-game show after the Red Raiders lose in a very frustrating fashion to West Virginia, 46-35 on Saturday. We appreciate you for listening, and stay tuned, of course, online. Both of us, Nick and I, both have columns, game story, notebook from the game with all sorts of items, 3 things that we're talking about, and you name it. Plus, we'll be back in Lubbock on Sunday for more from Cliff Kingsbury and the guys. So check out the pages of the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal, RedRaiders.com, LubbockOnline.com as well. For our engineer and producer, Mark Rogers, and for AJ Media Sports Editor, Nick Talbot, I'm Don Williams from the Avalanche-Journal. Thank you once again for listening to a RedRaiders.com postgame show brought to you by University Medical Center.